Hello everybody, welcome back. It is our Thursday video for the channel. I'm glad you're here. So this one will be a little bit of a more brief video. Hope you guys enjoyed the last one talking about the Colt World War I reproduction, the second one. I love this gun, it's so awesome. Can't wait to shoot it. So today though, we're going to be doing a video that's been heavily requested actually. A lot of people want an update on Blue. You guys saw some of my pictures on Instagram that I've changed some parts and done some things, and so people asked for a rundown of what's new, and so, man, happy to do it. Happy to talk about this beautiful gun. So a quick recap. I'll do this as fast as I can. Essentially, Blue started life out as just a regular old T-Sauce that I got on trade for some AR parts. The guy didn't care about it. He valued this gun at half of what they sell for new in terms of the parts trade. And, you know, at the time I was really like black-pilled on overseas cheapo guns, but I thought, you know what the heck? Maybe I'll build it and just, you know, see what it's about. And I get it in, and you guys know the story. My eyes were opened to T-Sauce. And granted, this is 2022. This is before they really stepped up their game. And so it started out, though, as just a good old government 1911. And really what kind of throws it out of the running for being a really legit 1911 copy is the markings, because, you know, it's got the goofy 1911 U.S. Army slide markings, which nobody likes. It has the slightly lower ejection port, which I don't mind. This is the tasteful way to do this. It's not super lowered. It's not flared. It looks classic. It looks really good. And then it also came Cerakoted. And I ran it in its stock configuration for a couple years. I did not do anything to it. I just shot it. Man, I just fell in love with it. I was blown away with how well the gun shot, how reliable it was. And by the way, zero tuning. The only thing I did was change the recoil spring. That's it. Everything else was as the gun came. So this gun has a special place in my heart too, because it brought all of us together. It started this channel off with me making a video saying, are these T-Sauce guns any good? And they are very good, as you guys well know. As the channel progressed, I kind of got bored, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to rebuild Blue a little bit. It was a very light rebuild. And so I did a flat mainspring housing. I put in a medium trigger, and the gun was still Cerakoted at that point. And I started carrying it, and it became sort of my main carry gun. I got bored with it again because, you know, the guns that end up sitting in the safe doing nothing, I just don't like that. They've got to have a use, or they are going to get changed or disappear. That's kind of how it goes for me. So I ended up cold bluing the gun, which that's where this gun really became popular and got its name, Blue. And, you know, the cold bluing was great. It, you know, did just fine. But I wanted to try rust bluing. I hadn't done that in years, and I'd only really ever done small parts with rust bluing. And so I thought, you know what, let's just do the full pistol. And after 3 attempts, you guys saw the last video, we finally got it pretty good. Pretty good. I'm not going to say it's amazing. You know, you got some blemish there on the frame, here underneath the slide. On the slide back here, there's some unevenness. So I've honed the recipe in pretty well at this point, but hey, not a bad attempt. Now, I also got to say, though, the worst way to look at a blued gun is under LED lighting. It's just so bad. LED lighting makes even the most beautiful of blued guns look not so great. It can make them look green. It can reveal all the brown underneath, because this is technically a rusted gun, right? Even with the Colt reproduction. I don't know if you guys will see this on camera, but the frame under LED lighting is a different color than the slide. And up close, you can see imperfections. You can see brown streaks on the slide. It's just how it goes. I rust blued this gun, and it came out beautiful, and it really captured exactly what I was going for, which was a very 1920s or 1930s era bluing from Colt. They had just this almost baby blue underneath, gray. It was a lighter bluing. It's not super, super deep blue like this, which looks great. Nothing wrong with that. But there's something classic and just it grabs you. The guns look older when you have this grayish bluing with a hint of that baby blue, light blue underneath. And while I was in the middle of the build, my friend Jolly Roger, you guys know him well, he said, man, that looks like an Interwar. And I thought, oh my gosh, you're so right. And so in the middle of the build, I really leaned into it. I'm like, I actually need to go after that build because it's already so close by accident. Now, for those who don't know what the Interwar 1911s are, essentially after the A1 program in the 20s, you had this carryover period where you had a bunch of guns that were being built with old parts from the original 1911s. They were done the old ways. And so basically what those interwar 1911s were A1 1911s. So you had your short trigger, your arched mainspring housing, but they were still bluing them. They were using leftover full checkered grips. A lot of them still had the wide spur hammers from the original pre-wars. And so they were sort of this incredible, beautiful mixture of old with the new. They're a transitional gun, and I think they're some of the most interesting and beautiful guns. I will say by far, they are the most interesting A1 1911s out there. So I really leaned into that build, and, you know, that kind of catches us up. Now, since I've made that video, I have further updated some parts to really hone in on that interwar 1930s build. And, you know, people saw on Instagram me posting pictures and things like that, and they're like, man, we got to have a full video on it. And so there we go. That kind of brings us to now. So let's talk about what I did. All right, so first thing is the slide stop. That is an actual vintage Sistema slide stop, and it dropped right in, no fitting required. It does have a little bit of a different shaped pin on the end there. Don't really like the way that looks, but hey, you know, I'm not aiming it perfect here. If I was, I wouldn't be using a T-Sauce to build this particular build. We're just getting close. And it does its job. Locks back, it drops the slide, and it looks great. Man, I don't know why we ever got away from the checkered stuff. I do know why. Manufacturing costs. Hard stop. But man, these look so much better. They just look so much better. So went with the checkered slide stop. The next thing is the Colt reproduction World War I wide spur hammer. We call it the numeric hammer around these parts. And dropped right in, no problems. Looks great, functions great, and is awesome. Love these hammers. You're probably wondering, did I rust blue these two parts? No. Because they came quote-unquote blued already. And it was kind of a cheap, crude bluing. It does the job, but, you know, whatever. All I did was card these parts. And that's all I did with these. And, man, I gotta say, they just ended up matching the gun so beautifully. Particularly the hammer. I mean, the color is, like, dead on to the rest of the pistol. And that's just carding. Nothing else. No sort of, like, oils or no boiling it, no nothing. Carding only, hard stop. And then finally I went with this checkered arched mainspring housing with lanyard loop. I don't know who makes this, but you know, it's not a super correct one because those are very expensive and hard to find. This one was, you know, the closer you get, the more you see that it's basically like it's kind of like what T-Sauce does with their short triggers. There's just like hash marks cut into the trigger surface. So from 10 feet, it passes, and it passes the feel test. But the closer you examine it, the more you're like, that's not really right. It's kind of the same here. They're just deeper. They're just like hash marks chopped into the arched mainspring housing. But for the total vibe and look, it works well. It's just not like super correct. But here's the deal. All these parts that I just listed were super cheap. Super cheap. I'm not trying to go and spend $500 on vintage parts just to make this gun look correct, because it's not going to. First of all, the markings are wacko on this gun. It wouldn't work. We have the lowered ejection port, which I really like. I like the moderately lowered ejection port with no flaring. It's just, I think this is really tasteful and still has a vintage vibe. But overall, this gun, it's not going to be that correct anyway. It's just a good facsimile. It's a good 10 foot away, looks like an interwar gun, and that's good enough. Okay, so I know there's the perfectionists out there who will spend a lot of money to really get it perfect. I'm not going after that, and I don't know that I ever will. Making perfect clones is not in my nature. I just don't do that. So there it is. That is the update on Blue. And I got to tell you guys, you will have seen some footage throughout this video of this thing shooting, and you're going to see a little bit more as we close. This thing shoots phenomenally. It is such a good shooter. It's comfortable. It just feels different. It has a different vibe than every other 1911 I have. Just the conglomeration and the collection of like the finish, the full checkered grips, the A1, but then you have this checkering, like everything about it. When you pick this up, it just feels very different from everything else that I have. And boy, it runs like a sewing machine. I mean, look, don't forget, this pistol has somewhere like 3,400 rounds through it with 0 failures. So this gun is well used, well loved, carried a lot, and you know, it's a solid gun and it feels incredible. So yeah, there it is. That's Blue. Gotta love him. Awesome gun. And I guess I'll just remind everyone as well, all original parts on the internals. Nothing has been changed there. Obviously the hammer, but the original, you know, sear, disconnector, thumb safety, trigger is a T-sauce, the barrel, the bushing, you know, the heart is the same, and the gun just runs fantastic. So there's an update on Blue. And look, a lot of people have asked me, I guess we'll close it out by talking about this. A lot of people have asked me, like, hey, I want to do that. How should I, you know, can I bead blast it? Can I do this? Can I do that? And look, here's my advice. The first thing you need to realize is that this gun is, the steel is incredibly hard. When they say these guns are forged, they're not joking, and you're going to experience it really fast when you put some sandpaper or a file to one of these guns. It's going to take bluing a lot differently than an older gun would. It's the older steels that are softer are going to take bluing a little bit better. It's just hard to get a super hard piece of steel to, you know, take that finish. But here's the thing. If you go and get these guns bead blasted to avoid sanding, you're just going to find yourself back in step 1, which is you're going to have to sand it. When you bead blast, even if you use an extremely fine, you know, particulate, whether it's like aluminum oxide or glass bead or anything, it doesn't matter what you use. To get this finish, you are still going to have to sand. That's unavoidable. Now, for some people, they're going to be like, yeah, but I don't have to sand as much. Okay, fine, fair point. But I just want to warn you, if you think that you're going to avoid sanding by bead blasting, you're going to go blue it when it's been bead blasted, and you're going to be really disappointed that it doesn't look like this. Think of it this way. If it didn't have a shine and a polish before you blued it, it's not going to after. Okay? So the bluing does not make it shiny. The bluing changes the color. That's it. Of course, it has its protective properties, but I'm talking about how it looks, because let's just be real. You want the blued gun because of how it looks, right? Nobody's picking this because it's the best finish out there. That's not it at all. So my advice, personally, I think you're going to get the best product by just knuckling down, use the sandpaper. It took me 6 or 7 hours to really sand all the Cerakote off. Yes, that sucks. It's not fun. All of those things. But look, if you take shortcuts, you're going to get a shortcutted product. That's life. All right, there you go. That's Blue. The good old interwar build. This one's going to stay like this forever. I love this gun. It is so fun to shoot. It's beautiful. Absolutely love this pistol. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed that. We will see you on the next one.